Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with another edition of Rudy's Common Sense. Today's edition is going to look at what has become almost de rigueur for the Biden administration. It's their usual practice, the way they communicate, the way in which they give information, whether it's Biden or a little Red Lion Hood or any of the others on almost any subject. They practice, particularly on major issues, the big lie. And then they engage in projection, which is a psychological term, and of course accuse the other side of it. This has been going on since, they accused Trump of colluding with the Russians, which turned out to be a big farce and a hoax, but they were colluding with the Ukrainians and paying money and getting false information and still hiding information. But this is the big lie. And the big lie is really, it's an invention. This practice didn't begin with Hitler and Goebbels, but it was first really explained by them, as far as I can tell. Hitler and Mein Kampf, who described the big lie as just say it often enough, and no matter how untrue it is, people will accept it if you just stick to it stubbornly, no matter what the facts are. And of course, you have a sufficient amount of control over the press so it doesn't get contradicted too much. But then Goebbels kind of expanded on it and incorporated that, and also incorporated that doctrine of projection that I just mentioned, which is tell the big lie, tell the big lie, tell the big lie, and then turn it around and project on your enemies what you're doing, the atrocities you're committing, the bad motives you have, the desire just to take land for the purpose of taking land. So they, the Nazis did that by attributing to the Axis powers, to Britain, eventually to the United States, those motives that they had. Well, this is what Biden does. I know it's hard because it's accusing him of using Nazi tactics, but I don't know, that shouldn't be so unusual for you to accept now after, what the heck is it, a year and a half, 2 years of Democratic governors all over the country using Nazi tactics? What's arresting people for not wearing a mask when we now know, and should have known then, that masks are useless? I mean, how many people were handcuffed because they didn't have a mask on? There's no reason to handcuff somebody over a mask. Give them a ticket. And then you won't be embarrassed when you find out the whole thing was totally useless. It didn't follow the science. It followed the desire to dictate to people. Do I have to go any further than to point out how Biden, Cuomo, Hochul now, the Gretchen Whitmer, the worst governor in America, Murphy, Newsom, probably the weirdest governor in America in California. I mean, every single one of them seems to enjoy being governors by dictate. Every single one of them has courts. I think every single one of them has courts that have knocked out their government by dictate. Some of them on, violating freedom of religion. That's a pretty darn serious thing to violate, particularly for a Catholic like Cuomo. And what about, freedom of speech? Oh boy, have they been knocked out on that. They were governing by dictate. So just let's use common sense, because common sense is the biggest enemy of the big lie. Common sense says if you govern by dictate, not by persuasion, you are a dictator. Dictator? Get it? Huh? Like a fascist dictator. When you send loads of police in because a restaurant didn't check everybody for vaccine cards, and you have a record number of homicides in your city that year, like last year, what are you? First of all, you're a crime enabler. And second, hey, you like exercising that power. And boy, they enjoyed it. You know what showed that? The hypocrisy. Every single one of them got caught with the mask off, kissing people without the mask, going to great big soirees and dinners. The mayor of Chicago goes to get her hair done. Nobody else can. And what does she say? Oh, I have to look good. You don't. I do. We are developing the characteristics of a Nazi or communist society where the anointed members of the party have substantial rights that you don't have. It's just one of many things that I've pointed out on the express train to Marxism. But here, this is really, really, really serious. The big lie is really serious. It's been practiced throughout this administration. And when we have the time, we're going to outline them all. But let's stick on the one that's right now. Putin is responsible for the money you're paying at the gas tank. Putin is responsible for inflation. Now, let's hear it from the impaired intellect, namely Joe Biden himself. Let's first hear how he can't do anything because of Putin.
It's going to go up. Can't do much right now. Russia's responsible.
What do you think that sounds like to the rest of the world? Simple common sense. Putin is an avaricious, wealthiest man in Russia, wants to be a czar and wants to create a reputation as a czar. He's told us that. He's written it, most frequently a year ago. Under Bush, he saw weakness. He saw him scrambling because of the war, dissension in his administration about any further commitment of American troops. And he went down to Georgia and he grabbed a lot of land and killed a lot of people. Similar to what he's doing now, lesser scale, no cameras. Obama comes in, probably up to that point, the weakest president in American history and one of the most anti-American. Went on a tour apologizing about America, couldn't use the word Islamic extremism, described the Fort Hood Islamic terrorist attack where the guy's yelling, Allah Akbar, as workplace violence, bowed to the guy in Saudi Arabia. I'm the one who gave $10 million back to the guy in Saudi Arabia. He bowed to him. Get a difference? Mm-hmm. Weakest president in America up to that point. Set red lines, chemical weapons, never enforced them. Trump had to come in to do that. So, under Obama, every time Putin looked at Obama, I could see what Putin was thinking. I'm a KGB murderer trained. He's a community organizer trained to be a communist. That's what they trained him to be. That's what the community organizers in those days were trained on the basis of. You heard that clip, right? He can't do anything. If he can't do anything, why does he resign? I can't do anything? As if Putin caused the price at the pump, which they all repeat now, all the idiot, moron, anti-American, whatever the heck they are, they keep repeating it? Or how about the other one? Gee, he's not even, it's not just the price. Putin is now responsible for all of our inflation. He's got an economy where inflation is the worst in 40 years. He's got an economy where there has been wage increases. I'll do him. But there actually have been decreases because of inflation. All of you are making 2% less. No matter what you were making, it's 2% less now. So is your IRA. So are all your savings. And you know where they're heading? Oh, to 2.8 right away. By the end of this year, most economists figure about 4%. You didn't get an increase. Every time he says, highest wages ever for the American people, he's lying. Inflation is the most insidious tax. It affects everyone equally, rich and poor. It takes the dollar you have in your hand and it makes it 98 cents. And Putin doesn't have a damn thing to do with it. Neither does Trump. All of this is attributable, I'd say, 80% of the price at the pump, and 90% of inflation is due to the actions of our impaired president. And now we'll take a short break. Think your homeowner's insurance covers home title fraud? Think again. And neither does your common identity theft program. The FBI calls home title fraud one of the fastest growing crimes, which is why you need to go to HomeTitleLock.com, America's leader in home title protection. Here's the problem. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. And the deeds to all of our homes now are online. In minutes, a criminal can find and forge your name off the deed to your home and refile as the new owner. Like Jeff, who spent a fortune in legal fees after a thief forged himself onto the deed to Jeff's home and took out loans. Jeff didn't have home title lock then. He does now. Or Deborah, who thought our common identity theft service would protect her. Then a criminal got onto the deed to a home and had her evicted. Deborah has home title lock now. HomeTitleLock.com is your peace of mind, and the deed to your home is protected. Visit HomeTitleLock.com. HomeTitleLock.com. Let's look at the numbers. We don't have to go any further, and we can conclude the gas part of this, gas at the pump and who's responsible, very simply by looking at numbers. And these numbers come from, let's see, these numbers come from the EIA. I'd just like you to look at that. U.S. Energy Information Administration, considered to be by far and without any doubt bipartisan and completely independent and completely reliable. And you're going to know this from your own experience. So I've just prepared a little chart for you here that will help us get through it. Here it is. Basically, this is it, right? In November of 2019, when Trump was in office then for several years, right? He had gotten the price of gasoline, it was like at $2.60. This is the average price for the month of November 2019. This is a year before the election, right? In the month of the election, which is when we can say Biden won, and therefore it's going to start to have an impact, his policies that he's talking about, which were no fracking, no fossil fuels. In fact, let's just play one or two clips. We'll play you the clip of him basically going more Bernie Sanders than Bernie Sanders.
No more, no new fracking. And by the way, on the Recovery Act, I was able to make sure we invested $90 billion in making sure we brought down the price of solar and wind that is lower than the price of coal. That's why not another new coal plant will be built. I did that while you were watching. Number one. Number two.
So this was a no fossil fuel, no fracking guy. And he kind of moderated a bit, saying he would just not authorize new fracking. Somehow he must have done more than that, because when he comes in, the price of gasoline is quite reasonable at $2.10. I mean, anyone would take this. Now, this is a very low estimate of the price because it includes a lot of other things. So you got to think of it on a proportionate basis. I'll show you more of the real number in a minute. But if anything, this is, conservative. And by January of 2021, which is when he takes over, right? It's at 233. But this is his starting point, 210. It goes up somewhat just on the expectation of how he's going to destroy energy. But then by November 2021, when he's well into his process of his war on energy, that is canceling the Keystone Pipeline, canceling other pipelines, setting up very, very rigorous regulations, by and large, really banning fracking, giving out permits but not licenses. You know, when he says, I gave out more permits than anyone, you know what a big lie that is? You need to get a license. They don't give them licenses, so they don't. And finally, creating an atmosphere in which, why would you invest in energy when he wants to do away with it as soon as possible because of the Paris Accords what kind of misunderstanding is that of a dynamic entrepreneurial economy that you're going to badmouth an industry and expect big investment in it? I mean, that has to be attributed either to the fact that you're a socialist or stupid. So he does. He drives the price all the way up from 233 to 340 by November of 2021. Now, why did I pick November of 2021? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is when we first pick up that Putin is putting a few troops, some troops, in Ukraine. So this is the earliest moment in which you could say Putin plays a role in the increase in the price of gasoline. And that increase to February of 2022 was to $3.52, as computed by AIE. So let's use AIE's proportions for a minute. That's total $1.42, $1.32 under Biden, 12 cents under Putin. So who's responsible for it? Putin at 12 cents or Biden at 32 cents? The actual adjusted price is $4.10, and you end up with the same proportion there, which is that 80% of the increase is due to Biden before Putin played any role at all. Before Putin played any role at all in the process, before he had any troops, before oil was embargoed, but before any of that. So we know the reasons. I just listed them for you. So why are they lying? What's the purpose of it? I mean, let's do that. I'll switch these over again. In fact, what I'll do is, let's go back. So why are they lying? I mean, what's the purpose of it? I mean, these things are easily found, but this is what happens when you don't have a press. You see the work that I just did? The Times doesn't do that. The Washington Post doesn't do that. NBC doesn't do that. The guardians of, the truth are guardians of the big lie. There's no question that Biden and his war on energy and the Bidenistas' war on energy and the progressives' war on energy has created and is continuing to create the tremendous burden that you have where in some places like Texas, you're paying $7 and $8 for a gallon of gasoline. And if you ain't rich like those big Democrats who take money from Ukraine and China and elsewhere, or like your fellow Californian Pelosi who made a fortune while being a public servant, one of the really interesting things. I mean, a lot of that money came from China too, and some from Ukraine. I mean, they can afford it. They don't even pay for gas. Somebody drives them around. You're the one that gets screwed, big time, and the country. So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll finish up on gas, and we'll take a look at inflation, and we'll figure out how we work our way out of this. Not long ago, Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and his team fit me for my very own MyPillow. They also introduced me to their wide assortment of other incredible products, like their mattress topper, their sheets, towels, slippers, and more. Sleep is incredibly important to me, and I can assume for all of you. It's time you give MyPillow a try and see for yourself. Listeners have helped build MyPillow into the incredible company it is today, and Mike Lindell wants to give back to all of you. You can get great discounts on MyPillow products by going to mypillow.com right now and seeing each of the specially priced items, including those in the radio listener special square. You're going to see rotational offers up to 66% off on products like their pillows, mattress topper, Giza sheets, but also new products like their slippers, weighted blankets, robes, and waffle blankets. All MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Enter promo code RUDY for these great specials. That's mypillow.com and use the promo code RUDY. Rudy Giuliani back with you again. I just came across this very interesting little piece of paper, which almost seems contradictory because it comes from CNN, and it says facts first. Unfortunately for Biden, they got it right. Biden claimed he never said I oppose fracking when pressed by Trump on the issue. It was at the debate. You said it on tape, Trump replied. Conclusion. It's false that Biden never said he opposed fracking. In 2 Democratic primary debates, Biden made confusing remarks over fracking that his campaign had to clarify. In 2019, Biden said, we would make sure it's eliminated. Sounds like he was opposed to fracking. When asked about the future of coal and fracking, in 2020, he said he opposed new fracking. That's what you call a liar. Right, right. Liar in chief. And if you want to review it, there's an article in The Hill that's pretty fairly recent. It's February 24 of this year, which says Biden, not Putin, to blame for his high gas prices. And it basically goes through the same analysis that I did. Not as good, but they go through the same analysis that I just did. And there's a letter here to the editor of the Wall Street Journal that basically points out that they lie to you about this whole idea of permitting and licensing. Yeah, they'll give out permits, and he's given out a lot of permits, but they don't give out licenses. And this could be solved in a very, very short period of time. You can drill a shale well in a month, and it'll burp 1,000 barrels a day. Get 1,000 rigs moving to a new location. We can soon have additional 1 million barrels a day. There are plenty of acres that are not being used right now because of the Biden administration. I don't know. Do we have to continue to prove that this is a lie? Now, that EIA I told you about, the EIA made a finding. It tabulated U.S. energy consumption in 2019 and 2020 and determined that for both full years, counting all energy sources, we were energy independent for the first time in God knows how long. Yeah, we were energy independent. I'm not going to say by a lot. But by enough so that if we continued on that course, we would be really energy independent. In fact, we had gotten to the point where we were contributing more crude oil than anyone. And our gas reserves are probably more than our oil reserves. We just never explored them. So the United States, if it were treated the way a country should be treated without the tyranny of this green, absurd agenda, would be possibly the biggest producer of oil and gas. Certainly no worse than third. It would be entirely energy independent, as it was, and it would have already a sufficient amount of oil and gas to distribute to the rest of the world. And within a short period of time, it could displace Russia and allow Europe to be not dependent on Russia at all. Sound like a pretty good solution to you? Well, you put America first? Sounds like a bad solution for Russia and China, right? Well, if you put them first, you stop that in the U.S. You put us first, you make us energy independent. Certainly until something comes along that allows you to do it another way. Think of the absurdity of this. We're buying the oil from Russia. Whatever damage, arguably, that does to the climate is already being done, except over in Russia. Well, why wouldn't we get the oil here, have a process that's cleaner by far? It doesn't add to the amount of whatever damage they think we're doing in this universe that's so big, and we're this big. Again, common sense. We're this big. Exactly how much damage do we do? And how much is this what happens over centuries and millennia? I'll leave that to others to fight. I'll just say that at this point in time, with the world, at least with some threat of nuclear war, we got to just put this aside, and we just got to get energy independent. Because even if you agree that this has some massive impact on the world, you're not solving it by buying it from Russia, are you? You might as well produce it yourself. You're capable of it. There's no doubt we do it cleaner, and then we make the profit, and we create a real problem for Russian extortion, don't we? So we were energy independent until the energy war of the Biden administration started. The war against energy of the Biden administration. And very quickly, he changed it all so that 2021, on net exports, our net exports were higher than our imports. So once again, we were down. So let me say that again. Again, relying on EIA, we had 2019 and 2020, we were energy independent. And by 2021, we went back to being energy independent, which now has gotten much, much worse. Much, much worse. Significantly worse. So the answer to this is very, very simple. We've got to get ourselves quickly to a situation where we are energy independent. Here's the program that I would recommend, at least for a starter. Right away, if you put America first. Open the Keystone pipeline. Open the other small pipelines you closed down. A 5-year program to energy independence. Try to get it done in Trump time, in a year. Suspend the Green New Deal until we have room to argue such esoteric points and the world is not in jeopardy. Extend the Paris Accords and stop having us live under an unrealistic goal for strategies and processes that just cannot sustain that level of support for the energy the world needs, which I'm talking about wind, solar, and all of the other pipe dreams that you have. And fast track terminals so we can export our excess oil and gas, of which, if you followed the first couple of suggestions, you would have, even quicker than Trump got it, because Trump had to start from scratch. And you can start from a real boost. But, every time you've gotten a boost, you screwed it up, Biden. You had a real boost with the pandemic and you screwed that up, right? He got you the vaccine. You'd have had the vaccine, probably the wrong vaccine. I mean, the simple fact is that Biden has never done anything right in his life. Gates is right. He's never made the right decision about anything. Don't you see it? I don't know why that is. I mean, even a guy as dumb as him occasionally makes the right decision. Not him. So really it boils down to, I want to do it quickly, it's the shale gas. As these articles from energy publications make clear, the shale gas renaissance is the reason for the growth in natural gas production from non-federal lands, because shale plays are primarily situated on non-federal lands where most of the growth in production has occurred in recent years. A ban on fracking would effectively represent a ban on U.S. natural gas extraction. And given that 95% of natural gas involves hydraulic fracking. And it's used, by the way, for electricity. What are they called? Electric cars? They're called electric cars, guys. You got to produce electricity for the cars. To do that, you got to get gas, oil, gas. What's that? It's a fossil fuel. You got to figure out another way to make electricity, geniuses. Yeah, and I'll tell you, it could take you a while to do that. So now, if you decide to make a quick transition to electric cars, you may very well, on your theory, screw up the environment even more, because it might end up in a net release that's greater than you have today, because of all the new electricity you have to support. Does that make any sense to any of you climate change cultists? Does it make any sense? Well, I think that's enough for energy. Let's look at the other big lie, which is tied into an inflation. That Putin is responsible for the inflation. And let's listen to our liar-in-chief, opine on that.
It's going to go up. Can't do much right now. Russia's responsible.
In November 2020, this is when the election took place, inflation was a mere 1.2%. Boy, that's pretty low, isn't it? Must have been a pretty good president who did that. Not a Jimmy Carter for sure. Now we go to November of 2021. Just a mere 1 year for Biden. Just took him a year to ruin this. And we're at a 40-year high in inflation. Took a year for Biden to do this. 6.8. Now, why did I pick this date? I picked this date because this is, again, before Putin did anything. So you can't, as you just heard before we broke, you can't blame it on Putin. Oh, I can't do anything. Putin. I mean, it just has gone up to 7.9 since then. So you want to do a little arithmetic? It's simple. Biden brings it up 5.6 and Putin 0.9. Sound like this is the tail, but he's not wagging the dog. Huh? Sounds like this is a big lie. Another big lie. A very important big lie, but a big lie. Let's just see if I can give you a little support for this other than, than me, a Republican, and the facts. So Congressman Kevin Brady of Texas, who is on the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, says they're ignoring all of these reports about inflation accelerating over the last half a year. They're ignoring they're ignoring every single bit of information there is about inflation. It's mind-boggling how they just lie in the face of clear facts. Here it is again, right? I'm looking at the chart now. 1.2 in November of 2020 when the election took place. 1 year later, under Biden, 6.8. And we come to now and it's 7.9. The vast majority of it, almost all of it took place under Biden. And exactly what Putin has to do with inflation, I don't know. You got to figure that out. You got to go ask, Little Red Lion Hood or one of their people. But you've got Democrats like Larry Summers who have been warning about inflation from the very beginning, long before Putin came into the picture. And you've got Democrats pointing out, Democratic economists, that Putin has almost nothing to do with the gasoline at the pump. And again, very, very, very little to do, if anything, with inflation, which is just going to accelerate ahead. And we gave you the answer to oil and gas, right? The answer to inflation is real simple. Cut the spending. Cut the spending on dependency programs. Put people back to work. Create an incentive to work. How about we go back to workfare for people on welfare? You'll drop the inflation in a minute. In a minute. You're ruining the economy of this country by your socialist, communist policies. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. Now, we gave you some of the answers. Let me tell you what is not the answer. Don't buy oil running the communist government of Venezuela and trying to export communism all over South America. Why would you do that if you're not a communist? Why would you do that if you loved America? Why would you do that if you put America first, second, third, or fourth even? Why would you give money to a communist, homicidal, murderous government in which people are fleeing? I mean, how many people have fled from Venezuela? It's an enormous problem for Colombia and Brazil and for us. That's not the worst of it. You were buying oil from Putin. Who knows if you're not still buying oil from Putin? You're giving him the money to kill the Ukrainians. That's not the solution either. It's not the solution then to, stop buying oil from Putin, which I don't think you did, by the way, because you never tell the truth about anything. And then you ask Russia to negotiate with the regime of terror so you can buy oil from them. Why would you want to buy oil from the Ayatollah who has killed numerous Americans and wants to destroy our best ally, Israel? I don't know. If Satan were offering oil, would you buy it? I guess you would, huh? I mean, I guess in an administration that has its roots with Obama giving cash to the terrorists, I guess you guys have some kind of fascination or love for the regime of terror that I don't get. Is it ideological? Is it ideological because you're left? Ideological because you're communist? Ideological because, I don't know, if you find something of merit in excessive, out of control Islamic fundamentalism that wants to kill people? You got like a thing with that? I mean, I cannot explain why you would give cash to the country that's the largest supporter of terrorism in the world when you know that the only reason they want cash is to give it to terrorists. You see, if they didn't want to give it to terrorists, or they wanted to go through a little trouble to give it to terrorists, you do what we call a wire transfer. That's kind of like we do with every other country. We don't send out agents and distort their whole purpose in life, put them on an airplane in the middle of the night, not tell anybody, with bundles of hundreds of millions of cash, and send them across the ocean to a terrorist country and deliver it to them. So those are the things not to do. Don't buy from the regime of terror. Don't buy from communist Venezuela. And don't buy behind our backs from Putin so you can get even more Ukrainians killed, or get money pumped into Iran so they can kill Israelis or Americans. I don't know, whoever they are who make decisions for the mentally incompetent president, maybe this will appeal to you. I don't think it'll appeal to Obama. He's already done business with the terrorists in cash. And he may be the they, I don't know. But that happens. Don't we have to start thinking impeachment? If he starts giving money to terrorists who kill Americans and Israelis, they're going to do it in cash again. Well, this is where we are. Our country now will go down in history during this period as being one of the major proponents of the big lie. It'll be a country that was defrauded during the election. Again, I'm not talking about the machines. I'm not talking about the vote. We've got time to talk about that. I'm talking about defrauded of relevant, critical information that any country would need to know, and that was in the possession of and within the grasp of our so-called press, and was buried and covered up, and the people who had it were targeted for destruction. So that you, American people, elected him with only half of the knowledge of his criminality, which you now have a lot more of, probably about 80%. I should emphasize for you that the Russians have more than I have, because Hunter Biden turned over one of his computers that I do not have to a Russian spy / prostitute, kind of similar to, Swalwell's girlfriend or Dianne Feinstein's driver. So I ask you to please remain alert. We need you. We need your help. I'm beginning a campaign that is enormously important. I want you to email your senator, your congressman, and the White House. And I want you to demand that they not do business with tyrants, that they not buy energy from tyrants. How about you say, don't buy energy from tyrants? Putin, Ayatollah, Maduro. How about we do Made in America? And don't be fooled. The government has a lot to do with this. This is the government and big tech. They keep saying it's private. Like hell, it's private. This is the government and big tech depriving you of information about how they are turning your country into a one world, socialist, communist country. And you're going to stop it with me and all of our allies. Thank you. Again, let's pray for the people of Ukraine who are being sacrificed, the innocent people, the good people who are being destroyed by a murderous barbarian. And let's pray for the United States of America. God bless America.